Welcome to Club Grubbery. Good to see you again, John, on the 16th of September.
Good to be here, mate. Another fantastic interview. I'm not sure we've had Mark on previously. We should have done, but catching up
Yeah,
with everyone hard.
it is indeed, mate. And I think we need to be very, very circumspect about who we interview from now on because there's a lot of strange things going on. But Mark Neugebauer from Adelaide, podcaster extraordinaire, and he's been a voice for the Adelaide people standing up for all this stuff for a long time and for good reason, as he'll unpack shortly. But great to have you on, Mark Neugebauer.
Yeah, good on you, Hoodie, and good on you, John. Much appreciated. Look, I got to say, I've seen the kind of caliber of people that you guys have had on your show, so I'm actually quite humbled to be on, guys. Like even though I've been doing my own little bit in my own little space for a while, you guys have just really rocketed ahead, and it shows in the numbers that are of people that are following you as well. So, look, to be honest, I'm actually humbled to be on with you guys. So I appreciate the opportunity to have a chat today, guys.
Oh, mate, no need to be humble. I can tell you we're
Not amongst us.
not amongst us. Uh,
Yeah, no, there's definitely been a lot going on, isn't there? Geez, I tell you what, 5 years seems like a lifetime to me. Hey,
it really, really does. It really
Mm.
does. And it's it's all going nuts, and it seems to be getting nuttier by the minute. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just gone off the scale nuts in the last few days with everything happening with Charlie Kirk, and something I'd like to discuss a bit later on as we go through the program. But you were heavily involved in the rally last weekend in Adelaide, mate. It went very well in Sydney. I heard from Ian Brightope just a while ago, and he was speaking in the Melbourne rally. He said that was largely pretty good, apart from a little bit of angst there. But Brisbane didn't go so well, sadly. But Adelaide, how did you fare?
Look, it was really good, really peaceful. The numbers were down a bit from the 31st. There's people estimating probably around 7 to 8,000 people there on Saturday, which is still a good turnout when you consider, and if you look at it, and I looked at the 15th, the 31st as well, when they estimated around 10 to 15,000. And I take my hat off to anybody that's gone to the rallies when you consider the media messaging and also, the bureaucrats and politicians. We had our own Premier, Peter Malinauskas, basically buying into the narrative of the media around, everybody attending being racist and everything else like that.
Yeah.
But look, to be honest, I was really proud to walk with that many thousands of people, down the street, still regardless of the onslaught of stuff coming from the media and that. So, well done, Adelaide. I had the opportunity to also speak on behalf of the Aligned Council of Australia in regards to the pandemic treaty. So I did a bit of a 4 minute speech, but I was able to also incorporate, obviously, the draconian South Australian emergency management legislation, which has just been put on steroids over here, which is talks a bit into the treaties. So South Australia's going full steam ahead with all the kind of narratives. But look, it was a good rally, and I'm pleased that people like Mark Aldridge, had a huge impact on being able to organise that. Now he's the leader of United Voice Australia Party here in South Australia, and he was also involved in getting in to coordinate the rally on the 31st, which obviously at the end was taken over by the NSN speaker, but that wasn't planned. But he tried to control that as much as possible. He tried to control the mic, and because we've spoken about it before, I've spoken about it openly. You have. There's no. I don't believe the worldview of them, and obviously free speech. They have the right to say it, but I don't believe in their worldview, and it tainted it a bit. But we had none of that at this last rally, and it was just good to see. It was mums and dads, everyday Australians, small business owners, just every walk of life, just trying to raise their voice against what they see is just government overreach and corruption on a lot of levels. Migration obviously plays a part in that, but there's so many things to get out on the street for.
That's right. The government sure has given us a lot of ammunition, John. So much going on. And before we go any further, some of the machinations out of Canberra today, Johnny. We see One Nation has made their Senate pick.
Mm.
And we've also got a lot of upheaval going on in the Liberal Party, and for good reason. What can you tell us about that, John?
Well, One Nation have essentially picked Pauline Hanson's staffer, I think, of 9 years. I don't know much about this guy at all. I mean, he might be good. But, look, from my point of view, I just think, unfortunately, they've missed the mark again. They had a real opportunity to put somebody in there that could have really, smashed things out of the park. And what have they done there? They've put somebody in there. I mean, it's like when you put your biscuit into a cup of tea, isn't it? And you just don't know when to pull it out. You pull it out too quick, or you pull it out too late, and the thing falls off. In like that's what I feel about this. It's like the biscuit's just fallen into the tea. Uh, you know, it's disappointing, really, because there was a number of really good candidates that could have filled that void. I mean, your name was being bandied around at one point there, Hoodie. Tony Nikolic, Stuart Bond. So there's three that I know of. It's disappointing to me. I just think it's an opportunity that's gone through the cracks. And realistically, I mean, One Nation's starting to make traction. And
Yeah.
if Jacinta Price had it popped over and someone like Andrew Hastie, because that's the next thing on the agenda. I mean, Andrew Hastie has essentially told ABC Radio that if Susan Ley doesn't pull her head in and get rid of this net zero nonsense, then he's leaving the party. So.
Well, yeah. Clearly, we're heading for a leadership change in the Liberal Party, but I'm sure Andrew Hastie didn't want to make his move too soon to take on the leadership there because it's a bit of a poison chalice. Because there's no way they're going to get re-elected in the next election, and who knows how many after that. They've completely lost it.
Mm.
They've gone right down the gurgler for so many reasons, and it's going to take the likes of Andrew Hastie and Jacinta Nampijinpa Price to pull this off. I mean, you need that kind of a bold leadership to stand up and actually create something that's different from the Labor Party and the Greens. I mean, it's just nuts, Mark Neugebauer. I mean, the Liberal Party in Adelaide in South Australia do have Senator Alex Antich, who's going to be a rising star for sure. They need the calibre of these kind of people who are strategic thinkers to bring them out of the doldrums, don't you reckon?
Yeah, but there's too few of them, Graham, unfortunately, and unfortunately, the Liberal Party has massive issues still with a factional infighting. We've only just seen that again with the voting for who's going to be on the Senate ticket here in South Australia, and there's still a lot of infighting and banting around about who gets what position for that. And so there's a long way to go. Look, the Liberal Party is a long way off. I'm talking to people that have been part of the party for many, many years that are thinking about leaving in droves. Like I'm talking 20, 30 year plus. I know already, John and Edna Tate really well. I mean, they were part of the Liberal Party for 40 odd years, 30 years, left, and so many like them because there's just no real direction to anybody that they can actually turn this ship around because they've got too many woes with the machinations inside the party, the faceless people, and because we see the front people obviously, but a lot of them are they're dictated to by the party machine, right? So I don't see any hope for Australians, for South Australians in the Liberal Party going forward. And you made a good point around One Nation. You just think like they had this great opportunity to put someone that's really upstanding and out there and been a real fighter for a long time there. So I don't know. It's almost like we need a separate thing altogether, like a reform party, where a lot of these people just go, you know what, we've had enough, and we're all going to come together, and we're just going to try and build something from scratch. From everybody, we're going to say we see that you're disillusioned from here and there and everywhere. whether it's something that Gerard Rennick can pull off in the next sort of a little while, who knows, right? But it's an absolute mess. But what I do know is that there's absolutely no opposition to Labor and the Greens, and unfortunately, it just means that there's going to be more pain. That's all I see going forward.
Do you think, Mark, that compulsory voting has been a drawback in our electoral system, in that so many Australians are apathetic about the political scene? Most of them vote in an uneducated fashion. They couldn't care less. I mean, I heard a lot of excuses why people voted Labor over Liberal. One young guy in Coffs Harbour said, "Oh, I don't like baldy-headed men, and Peter Dutton's baldy, so I voted for the other bloke." I mean, these are the kinds of decisions that are getting us into strife. And if Labor think that they won because they're all that popular, I think, Johnny, I think we'd agree that I think this happened in so many of the last elections that we've had, state and federal, that the other guys, the winners didn't win, the opposition lost. That's really what's happened, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And look what happened there in Tony Burke's seat. I mean, people were being rushed through their citizenship naturalisations and being told by AEC officials that they can vote, and here's how you vote on the same day they're being naturalised. Now, I mean, this is a massive problem for me too. I mean, there should be, I don't know, maybe there needs to be some sort of lockout period once you're naturalised or something uh, to voting. I don't know, but I mean, this appears to be corrupt activity to my way of thinking. I mean, people are rushed through the system. Here, righto, here's your stamp. Now you're Australian. Come over this way. This is how you vote. I mean, it beggars belief.
It
And this is
does.
how they're doing it. And this is what they're doing with the universities. This is how they're getting the people to vote for them. They're giving more handouts. We're just a handout society. And whilst ever they're plunging people into the depths of despair, people become more reliant on them.
They do. They do. And look, we've talked about Jacinta Nampijinpa Price. We've put the call out for an interview with her, and we're hoping that that'll happen. We've got a good inside runner there that's trying to line it up for us. That'll be a great interview. We'd love to get her on and unpack some of the stuff that she's really full bottle on. I mean, her stand on the flag, her stand on us all being one country, one nation. Forget about this welcome to country rubbish and all of that. I mean, all those are, I guess, kind of superficial in a way. But her policy stance on so many issues, including net zero, is really remarkable. And I would be cheering her on to be a prime minister one day. I definitely feel she's got it. But anyhow, then you got the likes of Matt Camanzuli in New South Wales, prominent Liberal. And where are these people now? The people that can make a difference, where are they now? They've just been replaced by hacks.
Well, the Liberal
Absolutely.
Party, Mark, look, what's your view on South Australia? I mean, I actually thought it was the Liberal Party's beacon of hope. You had Alex Antic there that, Gerard Rennick was saying, look, stay in the party, go out, get people into your branches so that we don't end up with all these morons from the left taking over. All these woke identities just hijacking the Liberal Party. But I mean, they've done this now in South Australia, where allegedly Alex Antic was able to get some or restore some common sense back down there. But here it's blown up.
Mm. Well, look, the thing is that I think people will need to look really hard. The Liberal Party actually just assisted the Labor government here in South Australia with the Greens to pass the emergency management bill, which is on steroids now. So they actually backed that. So I actually have absolutely no hope in the Liberal Party. And I have so much faith and I have so much respect for Alex Antic, but I think that he is actually pushing a massive boulder uphill. Personally, this is just my personal opinion. And I think the Liberal Party here in South Australia has got a long way to go. They're not in opposition and they're not pushing back hard enough and supporting the people about everything that they've been through. I mean, you've got to remember that the Liberal Party were in power here in South Australia when COVID was on under Stephen Marshall. So there's a lot of there's a thousands and thousands of South Australians that don't forget too easily about what was enacted on them during that period. And obviously we've had Labor come on since then, but the Liberal Party has given no real hope to South Australians, especially those that have been disenfranchised, to say, well, we're gonna vote now for Liberals. I mean, that ship sailed. I mean, there's been too much damage done, and it'd have to take an absolute miracle for South Australians, particularly those in our camp that have been disenfranchised by everything's happened, let alone anything else. I just don't see a way forward for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Adelaide seems to be the people of South Australia seem to be very astute politically. I think much more than some of the other states. And the fact that you got 8,000 to turn out in Adelaide on the weekend, I think Sydney had about 5,000. Not too sure the numbers in Melbourne, haven't heard. Brisbane was dismal. It started out with a small number and ended up with a much smaller number. So, there seems to be a lot more political awareness going on around the scene in Adelaide. Is that a fair assumption?
Look, there is. I mean, people are really looking for the alternatives though, because what is it? I mean, you can't go Liberal. If Labor's killing this state, it's gone net zero. It's gone for a climate change emergency. It's just gone these emergency management powers. So it's really going to have to be. And I know Carlos Coremba, who's the lead Senate candidate now for One Nation. You've got United Voice. Like Mark Aldridge has obviously got a lot of people behind him. There's a lot of murmurings. People are, obviously politically aware, and this is. And I'm getting back to you mentioned earlier about compulsory voting. I do actually support compulsory voting. What I have an issue with, and because I've also got to put a disclaimer in that I'm a committee member for Australians for Better Government, so we're talking about all these types of things, voting reform, constitutional reform, and all these, the separations of powers. I do believe in compulsory voting, but I don't believe in the ballot, the preferences. If you have got 7 people on a ballot, and you only agree with 3 or 4 of those, I think they're the only ones that you should number, and the rest don't get numbered, right? So I don't agree with that. I don't believe that we should be voting for people or even putting someone on a ballot who politically or even, whatever way align with. So I just think there's a lot that needs to be changed, and that's why I did get involved with Australians for Better Government to look at some of those reforms and what we do. I mean, Kevin Lochray, I believe you're aware of him. He's got some reforms in regards to having a number system. So each person gets a person gets a vote. They get a number allocated to them based on where they sit on the ballot. So if you get a number 1 for a candidate, they get 5 points. You get a number 2 for a candidate, they get 4 points. And that ends up working out very differently to our current preferential system. So it's definitely worthwhile looking into these sorts of things. But look, I think there's many people, and I've reported on this before, Graham and John. Here in South Australia, we had nearly 300,000 people that either didn't vote, like so they dummy voted, or they just didn't vote at all. And then we obviously have a certain amount of numbers on that aren't on the electoral roll. So that's a lot of wasted votes as well, because people have just lost so much interest, and because they feel that there's no matter who they vote for or what vote they cast, it makes no difference in the big scheme of things. So they're so disenfranchised, and I'm hoping to change minds on that. And again, just to give a bit of a plug, that's one of the reasons why I've decided I'm going to run for the Legislative Council here in South Australia as an independent. And it's a big ask. It's something I never really wanted to do. I'm a carer. I've got family as well. I work full time at the moment, but I figure, well, I can't be just sitting on my hands and do nothing. The only way that I can hopefully make an impact is by getting in the thick of it, and hopefully, getting some information out to at least during the campaign period, get some information out to the public that the mainstream media isn't reporting, and challenge some of the stuff that the major parties are doing. So I obviously, at the moment, I still need a couple of hundred nominations to be able to lodge my candidacy as an independent, but I've 100% committed to that.
Well, that's a pretty big step. It's a big
Yep,
commitment, isn't it?
it's a massive commitment, and it's going to put a lot on, and especially look, if you consider I hold conservative worldview. I'm a Christian. I'm openly a Christian. I do talk into a lot of the polarizing topics, so I'm automatically going to be putting a target on my back from the left side of politics and media and so forth. And I fully understand that. But you know what? And I often say this, we've got so many of our fellow Christians around the world that are martyrs to the ultimate, right? They die for the ultimate. And now if the biggest attack I'm going to get is by putting my hand up to be a candidate in the Legislative Council as an independent, and I cop a lot of attacks and heat, that's the least I can do for for what I believe in my children's and grandchildren's future, right? So, whether it gets me anywhere, I don't know, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Obviously, first thing is I've got to obviously get registered.
Yeah, well, all the best for that too. Now, you mentioned Kevin Lockray, and
Mm,
you're working with him. I know Kevin's got a position that we should be increasing the voting age to 25. I'd like both your opinions on that. What do you think
yeah.
about that notion?
Well, myself, I don't agree. I think 25 is a bit too old. I think again, it should come. I do like the idea of what we're trying to propose and actually put it out to a popular vote to see what the public thinks about it.
Mhm.
And I know that he did put a caveat on it that, obviously if you're not eligible to vote, you don't pay taxes and you don't get conscripted to the army or whatever it is, if that happens to be. So I know he was saying that. We've got young kids already working at 16. Now, if you're not able to vote at 21 or 25, why should you pay taxes if you can't have a contribution to the political system? And then the same thing goes if you're conscripted. I think 25 is probably too much, and I know where he's coming from because evidence does show that the frontal lobe and brain development still continues well into early 20s and so forth for a lot of people. And we know the trouble that teenagers go through with everything that's going on through their developmental stages. So, and that's why some people are recommending older. I'm open to looking at, possibly 21. I don't really, I think 18 is still okay, but I think it should come down to a popular vote, what people believe the voting age should be. And young people need to have a voice in that.
Mm.
John, what are your
Well,
thoughts on the age?
look, personally, I don't mind the 25, to be completely honest. I think, Kevin's balance on that is good. He's basically saying, look, you don't pay taxes until you're 25. You can't be conscripted, but you can sign up for the military if you want. Uh, and that gives kids an opportunity in this absolutely horrific housing market to actually save some genuine cash. If you're not paying tax, in your first 7 years, 8 years of employment, I think that's a really really good kickstart to getting a deposit for a home. Now, maybe you could say, well, look, it's not compulsory to vote until you're 25, but you can vote from 21 as a side to that. I don't know, but look, I think part of the problem with with people just turning up is this indoctrination of, oh, you got to vote Green, you got to vote for Labor, the teachers, the university wokes, that's what you got to do, and so they get into a pattern, and it's the same of old. Caitlin's dad was a shearer and a bus driver, and so he voted Labor, and it was basically filtered through the family home that you have to support the Labor Party. And so when I ran as a Liberal candidate in the seat of Cunningham, and there was a Labor union shearer handing out Liberal how to vote cards, it was a bit of a shock to his union mates. But that's what families do, because he was a very, very decent man, lovely man, and but that's how things work. So, look, I don't think there's anything wrong with people learning a bit about the world and learning a bit about politics and learning a bit about how everything functions before they have to elect people. Because look, the system's not working as it is. The system's broken. We're electing too many nut jobs. There's too many of these people, like Jackie Lambie, that are getting starts in politics that shouldn't be anywhere near the place.
Not
So
wrong there.
I don't. I don't think it's wrong to reform it. And in terms of the voting system and the preferences, that to me is a complete sham at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot that needs to change, and that's obviously why I got involved with Australians for Better Government to try and obviously look at raising awareness to that, because there is a lot within our electoral system that does need to change. But one of the big things that we talk about, and I know Stephen and Kevin talk about it a lot, is this idea of getting civics back in school, like proper civics. So that's once we
Yeah.
get past the whole indoctrination system, because the education system's geared up to indoctrinate the kids. But getting to a stage where we can get civics lessons into school from year 9, 10 onwards to really talk about, how does democracy work? How does vote work? But having it done properly. We don't want it obviously coming from the left. It needs to be done properly, right? So
Yeah.
how we do that is the challenge in anything going forward, because we're just so infiltrated at every level in our institutions. It's not funny.
What are your thoughts, Woody? What do you think?
Look, yeah, I reckon that whole education process needs to start at a very young age. As I said, I think compulsory voting. I don't actually agree with it because we spoke to Senator Ron Johnson about that in the USA, and he thought that he was really glad they didn't have compulsory voting over there.
Yeah.
But I believe that if you're going to vote, you should be educated, and so how do you stop people from putting in donkey votes, and how do you stop people from just voting because they like the colour of a bird's hair or whatever? I mean that's the sort of stuff that the left really make the most of,
Mm.
because they play to the populist view, and it's just nuts. But I think about the people who are in the field that are really prominent in Adelaide. And we've interviewed all of these guys: Nick Takos, Graham Lyons, Alan Novak, Judge Stuart Lindsay. There's a lot of really reasonable thinkers in the scene
Wa-
around Adelaide, and
Warren
and
Federer?
Warren
Mm,
Treadray, yeah. So working
mm,
alongside of you too, Mark, and I know you probably interviewed all those guys as well. Um, there seems to be a lot of intellectual talent in the pool in South Australia, and I think that's reflected in the numbers that you're getting at the rallies, because you are turning out in big numbers, and that's really encouraging. But
mm,
the one thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks, and I'm always loath to talk about this because I think you only sort of add fuel to the fire when you do, but I think it needs to be said. We can't live in denial and avoid it. We've got a whole bunch of personalities and egos now who organise rallies, and they're all fighting with one another. And I think it has a lot to do with the downturn in the numbers. Um, there are lots of reasons why people are sceptical about some of the rallies and the reasons they go. And you can see that over the 31st of August rally, there was a lot of people concerned about some kind of white supremacist infiltration. But when we think about it, those guys are way, way outnumbered by the average mums and dads who turn up because they just want to get something done.
Mm.
And I was on a show with Rob McKnight last night, McKnight Tonight, and he talked about the numbers, and I said, well, I think the rally on the 31st ended up being a fantastic rally. People were out there, and he said the rally you were at seemed to be a lot more peaceful, and there was a lot less turmoil involved. Was that because your rally didn't include white supremacists? I said the rally on the 31st didn't include white supremacists either. There was a minor number of them, a minor number. And the majority of the people were there at that rally. Were also at the rally that you and I were at, John, in Sydney, and the one you're at, Mark. These are Australian people that are fed up. And they're not only fed up with their government not listening to them, they're starting to get a bit fed up with all this argy-bargy and dirty laundry that's being aired amongst all these rally organisers. It seems like one attacks the other, and then they come out on social media and they fire back, and it's like days of our lives. I think we're done with it, aren't we?
Yeah, look, I'm very disappointed. And look, when COVID first started, I did a short video. This was over 4 years ago when I saw Craig Kelly and Malcolm Roberts and even that time George Christensen, and even back then Graham. And this is just where my thought is that I did a video and I just put it out live and I said I just really prayed for these guys all to come together for unity to be on the same page to push back, and nothing's changed for me along that. And it really frustrates me that we have got so many people that we could do another UK here in Australia. We've got so many disenfranchised Australians. It's just unfortunate that there's so much ego and so much chest beating that goes on that people can't come together and go, you know what, we've all got the same enemy. And I'm just not sure whether it's actually by design or deliberate, whether these people are trying to cause the division purposely and really resisting trying to create something as amazing as what Tommy Robinson did in the UK over the weekend, right? I don't know what it's going to take personally for that to happen, but it has to happen because otherwise we're going to continue to be. There's about 15% of the population, right? About 15% of people that just voted for, One Nation, Family First, all those, sort of centre conservative leaning kind of parties. That's 15% of the population. Now
That's enough
imagine
to
getting
tip it.
that is enough to tip it. Now, imagine just being able to unite those 15%, which is what I believe the Aligned Council of Australia has been trying to do, John, who you're obviously involved in, is trying to give a platform for all these groups to try and come together and work together. But it just seems like there's this constant argy-bargy about, who's involved and who's not. Now, whether or not we get to a point and go, um, the problem I saw with even the Adelaide rallies is that, and we heard that a lot of the migrant community, there was, people from the Indian community and others that said we would love to come, but where there was just so much stigma created by media and politicians about the white supremacy kind of side of things, this white Australia policy kind of push, that they actually just didn't want to be involved or with anything that related to that. And as we know, the majority of people that turned up, it wasn't about that. It's not, I mean, we're one of the least racist countries in the world, actually. We're way down the list. And sure, is there some issues with the amount of people coming from one demographic with our government at the moment, but that sits in our government's lap. I mean, anybody that wants to come to this country, of course, they're going to put an application in for a visa. And so we can't be targeting it at our fellow people, migrants, right, or any sort of particular ethnic group. We've got to get the messaging right and say from the word go, look, this has been organised, this is what the rally is all about, but it has to be about something that unites the 15%. It has to be, and I shared a lot of things. When you come on my show the other day, I showed you that whole list of things that I've put together. I mean, they're all valid things that are wrong with this country that we should be fighting back on.
Yeah.
Now, the messaging needs to be what sort of rally can we get the 15% of Australians that are disenfranchised with the government together and make that happen. Now that is beyond me. I'm not a rally organizer. I suck at it. I'm not good at that. Mark's
Me
very
either.
well connected. He's good at it, but there's people that are really good at it. What we need is a working group, I think, of people that are really committed to make this happen, but it needs to be given time. These rushed rallies end up working against us, and then the media works against us and the politicians work against us. I really think we need to take a breath, step back, get some really good coordinators that are really good at coordinating rallies, that really know how to rally the troops, all come together nationally and work on it for however long, whether it be a month or whatever, and say, yes, we've got a plan. This is the messaging we want, and this is what we're going to do. And that's where I think it needs to go. Otherwise, I think we're just going to continue to get hammered from the left, the politicians and the media. And that's just where I sit with it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It needs a good PR machine behind it, is basically what you're saying. That's got good messaging and some resources behind it to get it promoted. There's one planned in November. I don't know who's planning that one. Is it Australia First or something? Do we know anything about that group?
No, I've seen a short video that was produced, but I'm not sure who's actually behind it. But if you look at the UK one, it was Advance UK was behind a lot of that. Now, maybe we need to reach out to Tommy or that team and say, look, okay, what was so successful? What worked for you? What did you do behind the scenes to make it happen? We've got some very well connected people here in Australia. Surely someone could reach out to Tommy's, the people that put that together. Because all in all, people look at that. You can't tell me that that wasn't one of the most successful events in history over there, with that many people and not much come out of that, as in violence, and there was a little bit of disruption, but it was an amazing event. Why don't we just look at reaching out to people there and see what worked for them?
I think the thing is the UK are a little bit further down the breaking point than we are. We're not quite there yet. We haven't had enough of Albanese. There's still people out there that are nonchalant about all this.
Yeah.
And look, I think you're right, Mark. Hoodie. I think you do need good PR. You need good communication. Somebody has to organise it, but there has to be plenty of notice. You can't just do these things and say, "Oh, look, in a fortnight's time we're having this," because when we rallied before, when Mac was organising these things, and they were absolutely unbelievable. And you look at the turnout at Epic. I mean, people were out of work. But a lot of these people have gone back to work. There wasn't any sport going on. So, mums and dads weren't going to the local football, or, because they were mandated out of it still. You had to be. And so when you look at all that, overseas holidays, or, concerts, all these things, trips to the
Yeah.
football, like none
Yeah.
of that was going on. I mean, so
Yeah.
people were at a loss for something to do, and they were really, really angry about, what's going on. And they came into town, and they got on the train, and they came in because they were desperate for company. They were desperate to speak with like-minded people that were going through same sort of experiences, but we're not
Hmm.
there now.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's the big difference from my point of view. I think we will have one of those rallies, but people just aren't hurting enough yet.
Yeah, we haven't suffered enough. You did right.
Mm. Yeah.
We haven't been kicked hard enough yet to.
It's
And the other
coming,
thing,
but
it's coming, but we've got to recognise the fact that the people who slept through the pandemic
yeah,
are waking up for a whole bunch of other things. So what we've got to do is have a PR machine that embraces new people to add to the old, so that there's fresh faces coming up. I mean, people are sick and tired of seeing John and I at rallies. I'm sick and tired of being on the stage at the rallies. I've got to tell you, although the crowd in Sydney were fantastic, they loved on us. But
yeah,
there needs to be some fresh blood,
Mm.
and the sooner that happens, the better. And it needs to be coordinated. And for goodness sake, if you're going to go on camera and you're going to promote anything, and you're going to attack somebody, can you cut with the F bombs? I mean,
Mm.
you lose half the room. This is a clear indication that some of these people can't read a room. We've got
Mm.
a government that can't read the people. We've got these people who can't read the room. If you're going to stand there and drop F bombs, you're going to lose half the audience. Are going to click off. That's just a fact.
Mm.
You've got to be disciplined, and you've got to be respectful, and you've got to back yourself a little bit too. Show yourself a little bit of respect. Otherwise, let's be honest, you just look like a thug from the scrub.
Mm.
And people have got to wake up to this fact and start playing the game a whole lot better, a whole lot better. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Christian and I don't like bad language. Even before I was a Christian, I hated hearing women do that, and I hated seeing men do that in front of women. Because back when I was growing up, if I dropped the F bomb anywhere near my mum, I would have got a clout. I would have got a clip around the ear. It doesn't go over well with the older generation, and it shouldn't go over well with any generation, because it shows we don't have respect for each other. So
Mm.
all those things need to be weighed up. And we have to realise, we have to understand what we're fighting for, what we're going there for, and not have all these weird agendas on the fringes.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that's been one of my big things, Graham, we're trying to say is like that, because we know a lot of us are talking in the echo chamber, right? So what we all know, we know. And my thinking has been for a long time now. It's like, how do we reach the 80%? Because they're the ones that are going to help. They're the only ones that are going to help turn this around. And, it's working on strategies that we reach the 80% with the right messaging. And this is not discounting some of that the current fringe stuff, and we talked about a little bit on when we caught up, is some of this stuff that if it's hard for us to understand within the movement, how the hell are we going to get the 80% of people that don't even know what we're out there currently pushing back on to understand the sort of more fringe stuff, right? And this is not discounting the people that are actually working behind the scenes trying to educate people, but if you can't educate the 15% of people that are in your circle, then how are we going to get it to the others? And that's what I think. And we talked about messaging is just a big thing. We've got to get the messaging right, and get the people on board. The people that are just so mesmerized, that are still in the matrix, that are still, getting the TV streamed into them, the regular newspapers. They're the ones that we've got to try and um, wake up bit by bit in regards to what's going on, and by doing what you're saying, like just being, dropping the F-bomb or carrying on whichever way, we're not going to win those people over, and we're going to continue to be on the back foot, and the left is going to continue to win, and the socialist, communist, Marxist agenda is going to continue to win, and the media is going to continue to persecute us with good reason, so all these sort of things we've got to get better at.
And I think all these labels too, you're a Freemason, you're a sovereign citizen, you're this, you're that. I mean, it's all just nonsense. I mean, I'm sure there's elements of these people out there that are these, do identify as those badges, but they're not on here. They're not on
they're
Club
not.
Grubbery.
They're not.
Yeah.
And no, I agree. Sorry, mate, I cut you off there. No, but at the end of the day, that doesn't help. Now, I got involved in a conversation online with a lady this morning who made a comment on one of my posts or something that went up, and she said, "If you don't see that what's happening with Charlie Kirk is a psyop, then you're a gatekeeper." And I asked her what she thought a gatekeeper was, and I didn't attack her. I was just saying I'm really interested. What is a gatekeeper? And that led to a conversation that went backwards and forwards about 3 or 4 times. It ended up being really, really good. Really, really good. She said, "Oh, well, you're probably gonna ban me or whatever." I said, No. You're probably gonna crucify me. And I said, No. It's not about that. We're all triggered by things. And I think we need to play this game a bit smarter. Now, in the last few days since Charlie Kirk died, I've realised that we are in the middle of a massive psyop. Brace yourself. I haven't turned into a conspiracy theorist overnight. I think the PSYOP is actually getting everyone to believe that everything that they ever trusted is a PSYOP. That's the PSYOP. Everything that ever happens, it's a PSYOP. How many different ways are the people doing their research going to analyze the shooting video from Charlie Kirk? They're coming up with all these theories. They're saying it's a PSYOP. It might be. But here's the thing. When the enemy wants you to be distracted, he's quite happy for you to know what his plans are, especially if they're really outrageous, because half the people would say, no, they wouldn't do that. And the other half of the people are so bound up in fear and so busy digging for darkness that they're not seeing the reality. This is the classic psychological operation ploy, is to get everyone afraid and divided.
Yeah.
So people are fighting over flat earth versus round earth, over chemtrails versus contrails. They're fighting over Palestine versus Israel, Ukraine versus Russia. Yes vote, no vote. Labor, Liberal. All this division plays right into the hands of the enemy. So when you get on your keyboard and you're about to call someone controlled opposition and everything and pour out hate on your keyboard, you're actually working for the enemy and you're accusing other people of doing that. And you're not doing it deliberately. You're caught up in it. And that's why we have to pull right back on all this stuff, because they're destabilizing us. It's a classical Marxist strategy. First, you destabilize, you demoralize the population, then you destabilize them, and then you normalize that destabilization. And that's what's going on here. It's a classic psyop from the textbooks, and we're all falling for it. So we're literally contributing to the problem that we're fighting by doing it. I hope people can see. It's really clear to me, and I'm not the only one thinking that way. There's a lot of pretty astute people in America saying, hang on, we need to back off, because we have more more things in common, all of us, than we have that divide us. We do. What do we want? We all want jobs. We want a roof over our heads. We want our kids to have an education, and we want to have a serene life. We want to have peace in our lives. They're the things that we want. Everybody wants that, whether you're a raging leftist or a raging ultra right-wing nationalist. We all want the same things, and the people in the middle even more so. So the things that unite us are much greater than the things that divide us, and the division is playing right into the hands of the enemy, and the enemy is Satan. There's no doubt about it, and we've got to stop playing his game. We've got to stop giving him a foothold. Mark, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, look, I totally agree. And everything you're saying, and I've been reflecting on that a bit, and that's probably why I've pulled back. I mean, obviously, I got involved in commenting on the Charlie Kirk stuff in America and that, but I think it's really important, and I actually have to do it better as well, is really just going back and focusing on what's actually happening in your own backyard and address those things that are in your own backyard. Because I think there's if you think of all the manpower, all the brain power and the hours dedicated by people being online, throwing back comments backwards and forwards for people that we know are really just trying to elicit that frustration and that. If imagine turning all that hours into something positive in your own community by having those, even setting up your own town hall meetings with like-minded people and offering people to come along about stuff that that you've found out, and start having those one-to-one conversations face-to-face in a community, hire a hall for $50 or whatever, and say, look, come along. This is what we know. This is what we know. This is what we found out. If you totally don't agree, that's fine. You don't have to come back again. But if you'd like to know more, let's keep building it. You could do letterbox drops, print some flyers with a good video. You can do easy QR codes. If you found a really good video from, Ian Brighthope or something like that, or someone that's educating people on health or whatever, print a flyer with a QR code and say, did you know? And just put it in your neighbor's letterbox or something like that. If we spent the energy getting back in our own neighborhood, our own community, and focusing in our own state, rather than stuff that we can't control internationally or even nationally sometimes. I'm sure we've got to be aware and astute about what's happening federally, because that's what the government's doing. But the government's in government now for another 2.5 years, right? 2 and a bit years. There's nothing we can do about from pushing back, but we can do something in our own states when state elections are coming up. We can do something in our councils when our council elections are coming up, and we can do something to talk with our community members, in sporting clubs, in bowls clubs, in whatever settings, and pull back from that banter online and international stuff that we can't impact at all, and focus back closer to home. I don't know. What about you, John?
No, I agree. I mean, I think back to Hoodie when you went on your tours. I mean, they were probably some of the most successful outcomes of anything that's been done. Relating to those people in those regional centres. I mean, I know the night we went to the Cali Hotel, and we were able to have a meal with everyone and a beer, and they're the sorts of things that are really that really resonate with people, and they're infectious. And I think if you can have those sorts of talks in those community settings, then people really like that, and I think there's a lot of good outcomes from them, and they help the local economy too. I mean, if you can drag couple of hundred people into a local pub that's struggling, and people buy a meal, and that keeps local people employed. Everything keeps going around and around. I think that's something that's really positive. I mean, it's something that we could probably do, Hoodie. We could probably have a pub crawl. Pub crawl.
What a great idea! Look, and that's it, Johnny. You were at several of those events that I was at. And you and I were together with Mark at Norwood Town Hall. That was a brilliant event.
Yeah, was too.
Those tours that Michelle and I did, we pressed the flesh with 30,000 people at 300 different venues. And we listened to them. We had photos taken with them. We prayed with them. We ate with them. And it was really great. Now, a lot of people wonder what we do with our lives, but I tell you, John and I have got Club Grubbery. He's got council. He's got the Aligned Council of Australia, which we might talk about in a minute, maybe. And we've got all that going on. And Michelle and I are running Recovery Road, a 12-step recovery program. We do Church Without Walls, which is an online church. I'm doing health chats with Professor Ian Brighthope, Hoodie's Heroes. All these things are solution orientated and they're out there building community, all those things. And they take up, apart from running the farm here, probably 80% of our time is spent doing those things. And we don't get paid to do it. We do it because we think that's the only way we're going to be able to pull together as things get bad. They're the things we need to be spending our time on, and not being cynical, because all these theories, they're all cynical, and there's a few influencers out there that love dropping a hint of a theory just to see how many comments and clicks they get, and that's not helpful. They're just adding to the problem. They don't realise that they're playing the enemy's game. I'm convinced that that's what's going on. The enemy is rapt that we're doing this. And I think we've got to stop it. I think anybody who has an online platform has a distinct responsibility, not only to the people, but to the country. We should be all about ending division and unity and helping people back to a position where they can make sensible decisions for their lives without being interfered with by government. That's what we should be on about. And so I think there's something out of this conversation that we all need to reflect on.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So tell us a bit about your podcast, Mark. How often do you go out, and what do you call yourself in South Australia? Because I know you've got a good following there.
Yeah, look, it's been a bit disjointed, Graham. I started obviously 4 years ago documenting my journey of what was going on with COVID and me and my personal life, and how it was impacting, pushing back on, not receiving the COVID injections. So it's kind of grown a little bit over the time, and I tried a iteration of South Australian Focus, which was doing all right, but obviously the numbers are nowhere near obviously what Club Grubbery or Cafe Lockdown, and that is. But it was a voice and I got a lot of appreciation from people that obviously appreciate the time and effort I can put in, and like yourself, I work full time. I'm blessed to have got work again after I was terminated from the disability sector all those years ago. So I'm actually really glad that I've got work, but trying to also do this is quite demanding when you've got family. As I said, I'm a carer as well, and that, so just trying to juggle everything. So South Australian Focus was what I set up, but then it got to me a little bit a couple of months ago, and I started wanting to pull right back. But then every time I want to pull back, it's like the Lord's saying, "No, look, just pick yourself back up and get into it." And it's sometimes it just gets so much that you kind of just want to give it all away, but intrinsically there's something in me that doesn't. So then I thought I'd try faith, culture, politics in Australia with Mark, and see how that goes. So I've started on that platform, and it's still, it was not so much focused just on South Australia, but looking at lots of issues that are related around, those topics, faith, culture, politics. But much more talking into it from a Christian perspective, and that. And I've had that regular podcast with Bruce for 74 episodes now. I've interviewed Bruce even before that, Dr. Bruce Pay, who you'd be very well aware of him. So that's a regular weekly thing. So look, I've just been trying to do what I can in the capacity I have. Some days I see all this stuff that I want to report on, and I'm just so inundated with other stuff that I just don't get to do podcast in the evening, because by the time I get to it, I'll go, no, what's the point? I've got this, because many people don't, many people probably do know there's actually a bit of, work behind the scenes trying to push things, out, because I do a lot of screen shares. I like to talk into a story, and that takes time. And I've got a little bit of a detailed mind. So for me, it's like, oh, have I got this right? And have I got, so to put a podcast together that explains a certain topic takes a bit of time. So I guess it's taken me a little bit to get the sort of following that I've only just got now on Rumble. Just only taken me years to get past the 1,000 followers just on Rumble. But obviously I'm active on X and Facebook, and I've got my Substack, which is around the same sort of numbers as well. So I am spread around a bit, and I am getting stuff out there, but it's just not currently possible for me to kind of do a daily show or a regular thing, and that's just where it is. And so I've just tried to do the best that I can with what I've got. And obviously now I've decided that I'm going to commit to a campaign. So obviously once I've got my numbers, the podcasts might pull back a bit, because I've got a strategy that once I'm actually approved as a candidate with the Electoral Commission here in South Australia, I intend to use my platform on the independent ticket. So I'm going to still continue to interview people that talk into what's happening in South Australia, but as a candidate that's running for the Legislative Council. So my podcasts will probably take us a step back, probably apart from Bruce's, because we've got to keep his brain going out there, unless I can get him a much better and bigger platform, which I'd love to see him get. But he's pretty committed, because we both sort of started around the same time, and I rocked up at a rally and said, "Hey, I'd love to interview you," and we went from there. But I'd really love to see Bruce get the sort of the tracking that you guys get. But for now, I'll continue to do that and whatever I can in my capacity.
Yeah, well, Bruce is a great guy. We've had him on a few times, and I've spoken with him on stage. I think at Gumaraka, or I forget. No, it wasn't Gumaraka. It was out in the Barossa Valley there somewhere. Anyhow, it was great event. I think there were about 500 people turned up. It was brilliant.
Yeah. Well,
Really,
if anybody really, if there's a testimony from anybody about how you can turn a simply true patriotic Australian that he's given his time and effort to the country, and then been so demoralised by that government in that country. Bruce is a prime example of that. So he served in the military, served as a doctor, served in his CFS. He's bent over backwards for so many good causes, and every single one of those institutions let him down through COVID, and even the politicians here in South Australia coming after him. So, if anybody wants a bio about how a government can turn the most patriotic, giving Australian around on a dime, Bruce's story is the one to tell.
Yeah, you poke the bear and you turn the best of Australia into your enemy. You're crazy.
Mm.
This is once again typical of what we've been saying for months. The government just doesn't read the room.
Mm.
There's a lot of room reading that isn't happening, Johnny.
Well, it's not just, as you know, Hoodie, it's not just the government. It's that sometimes it's our very own people.
Mm.
Yep.
This is the difficulty, that we struggle with. Mark, you mentioned there earlier that my involvement with the ACA. Well, this isn't known yet, but I've actually been thrown off the board of the ACA, so I'm no longer the chairman or a director. So three of the directors had a vote of no confidence in me. I'm glad to say that Dr. Rob Peterson and Derek Fox were with me 100%. And but anyway, we'll see what eventuates there. But it's once again, it's just very disappointing. We just end up wasting time. Doing all this stuff, and then people just can't accept things, or it's madness, and we end up just letting the enemy off the hook.
Mm.
Rome's burning, and we're worried about ticking a box, and it's
Yeah, look,
going.
I'm keeping my powder dry and all that because I hope there'll be some resolution in there. And the ACA is an organisation that has an awful lot of promise. A lot of people were pinning their hopes on it, and I just hope that it's not getting bogged down in egos and minutiae. I hope we're not majoring in the minors. I mean, there needs to be heavy campaigning. And I mean, you run the risk of losing a lot of good people when these things happen in organisations, and you need to put the whole picture first before you. Anyhow, probably a bit too early to even be discussing it just yet, but
Yeah, still a little way to go, but yeah,
we keep our eyes on the ball there, and we see what happens. But let's hope common sense prevails.
can only hope.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we've gone a good hour here, Mark, and I know you're a man of faith. How do you feel about praying us out?
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot there. I'm a terrible prayer, Graham. That's why I always get others to do it on my behalf. But
Well,
hey,
I'm happy to do it if you don't want to. That's fine.
yeah, I'd love for you to do it. I think you always bring the words. You find the words, so that'd be awesome.
He
All
let
right.
me do it
So,
once, and then I've never had another chance. That's it.
well, it went for 20 minutes. It went for 20 minutes.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that was a funny night. I remember where that happened. That happened in Sydney. We were staying in some
Could
little
he?
It could you. It's some little apartment. Your family, Michelle and I were in there, and we were doing a podcast, and everybody burst out laughing. It was so funny. Anyway,
Yeah, that's gold.
good on.
Well, usually if I'm talking to John and Edna Tate, I'm usually like Edna's a prolific player, and she's so good at it. So I always let her do it too. So
All right, let's do it, eh? Lord Father in heaven, we've been talking about some weighty issues, Lord, and Lord, we just pray that some of the words that we've said have become a reality for people, that they would actually ask a question of what would Jesus do before they tapped a keyboard. And do we really want to play into the hands of the enemy? Because that's what we do every time we attack our own. There are so many victims of friendly fire in what's in this movement at the moment, Lord, and it's just getting out of hand. And we know that Satan loves it when we do that. So give us the strength, the wisdom and courage to make better decisions and to read the room better, Father God. Because I'll tell you what, I think most of the people in this fight are here to serve you because they love you and they know that you love them. So, Lord, we need you to equip us. So help us to listen to your instructions and follow them and your will in our life implicitly. We ask you to be with Mark and his upcoming candidacy, Lord, that he is a man of faith, and then we can sure do with a lot more men of faith in the parliament. So we ask you to guide and lead that campaign, to also to be amongst all the rally organisers and sort that out, and also bring common sense to situations in groups like the ACA. So, Father God, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you that we still live in a wonderful country and that your grace abounds. And we thank you, Lord, that those of us who know you also know that in the chaos, you are still in control. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you,
Amen.
Graham. Thank you, Johnny and Graham. I much appreciate it. As I said, it's an absolute pleasure to be on with you guys. Thank you.
Great to have you on, and let's do it again because I think it's been a really good general conversation about a raft of issues, and I think it's been quite interesting and enjoyable. So thanks for coming, Mark. And Johnny Larder, you've often been heard to say.
Raise the flags. Everyone raise your flags. Get them up. Put them up in your driveways. Put them up. Get them up everywhere. You just couldn't make this stuff up.
I was going to say, you don't normally say that, but you finished off the right way. Good on you, mate. Yeah, fly the
Yeah,
flag.
good on you. By the
Oh,
flag.
did you know, everyone? Did you know that you can write to your local member and be issued with an Australian flag?
Mm.
But you can. They'll send you one, but you have to have a flagpole on your property. So stick up a chunk of 2-inch water pipe in the ground out the front. Don't do it on a stormy night because that'd be shocking. Get it? Shocking.
You know,
Um,
though, just on
s-
that, Hoodie, I did get told recently, and this is yet to be verified, and we'll have to make a few inquiries, but I have been told that the Labor politicians in the federal parliament have stopped issuing the flags.
ah,
Oh.
well, I put in a request to Barnaby Joyce because I'm in his electorate, and I think I'm going to get one. I've erected a flagpole.
Well, if somebody's got a Labor politician in your area, ring them up and see whether you can still get the flag.
Yeah, yeah. And
I've
they're
been
free.
told you can't. Mm.
They're
Mm.
free. So we'd like to know in the comments how you go with that. So,
Yeah,
Bombard them,
that'd be
pick them up.
absolutely, absolutely. And at the end of the day, let's not complain about people burning the flag with their own money. If they bought a flag with their own money, want to burn their own property. If you're upset about that, how about you just go and put a flagpole in your own property and just fly them at every house. So don't complain about it. Just do if you're complaining about it and don't have an Australian flag in your property, then whatever.
What a
yeah,
great way to get the message through to these Australian politicians that we care about our flag.
Hmm.
Ring their parliamentary officers, ring their electorate officers, and demand. So you've got a flagpole and you want them to send you a flag. If they get thousands and thousands of people ringing up demanding that, then that is going to make an impact.
I want a
100%.
flag. I want a flag. Not a rainbow flag, not an Aboriginal flag. I want a
No,
flag. Now we're going to get the Red Flag Brigade, the old Duster mob, the old Duster fan club. They're going to be contacting us and telling us all that sort of stuff. We've heard it all before. We know, we understand. I'll fly a red flag if Barnaby gives me one as well, and they'll say, "Well, you should be buying." Yeah, look, anyway, it is what it is. So that's a really good thing you can do. It's a proactive thing you can do, and you might end up with a really nice piece of haberdashery.
Exactly.
Stay out of the trees, everyone. It's a great country because you live in it. We love you, even if you hate us. And let's get our country back on its feet. What you did yesterday got you to today. So stay in the fight. Hang in there. God bless you all. And we'll see you next time on Club Grubbery. Thanks, Mark.
Amen, fellas. All right, take care.